Okay, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mangg, and I gotta say, this is a dangerous thing I'm doing here. It's a dangerous thing. Trying out all these really cool games, demoing all these really cool board games that all happen to be really freaking expensive. It's dangerous because I want them all. Sort of continuing my escapades on Tabletop Simulator of trying a bunch of big solo board games. Really big co-op games. None of these are explicitly solo. They can just be played solo and enjoyed solo, as I've proven. So far we looked at Kingdom Death Monster, Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth, Madara, Unintentional Malum. And now we're going to be looking at Too Many Bones. Now this one's a little different. This is not... the other ones would all fall under the storytelling category on BGG. This one would not. This is not a storytelling RPG. This one is not one you'd play over, you know, a number of weeks and months and go through a campaign and build up your character. This is meant to be like, oh, hey, do you want to play Too Many Bones tonight? Yeah, that sounds fun. And then you'd play it, and then that would be it. And maybe you'd play it again next week, but it wouldn't carry over anything. So it's a more one and done kind of thing, but it basically condenses a whole sort of character building campaign into a couple hours or a few hours. And so that's why I'm giving it a shot. And I learned all the rules. I've played it for a little bit. And yeah, I gotta say, it's pretty freaking good. And I want to buy it. I want to buy it. I want to play it and enjoy it with people other than myself. All right, so first of all, the theming is very whimsical and sort of meant to be kind of lighthearted and humorous. I mean, this is one of the characters right here. So it's sort of got kind of a goofball art style. Nothing is that heavy or dark or anything like that. All right, so basically, whenever you play, you're going to pick a tyrant. And that's basically the big boss character that you're trying to defeat. So this mod here has like, I think all the expansions built in. But mainly for the base game, you're looking at these 7 here. Starting with Nom, usually. Nom, the big troll there, the cave troll. And basically, I think there's sort of a difficulty consideration, of course, but mainly you choose this based on how long of a game you want. So you can see it says there in the lower right, game length. So Nom is the shortest, all the way up to Duster here at a very lengthy number. And so, yeah, you can pick and choose how long do you want a game to go on for. And, yeah, it ranges from like 2 to 4 hours or so, I think. I think solo, you can get it definitely way down less than 2 hours. And, yeah, you go through a series of encounters. And there's basically just a deck of encounter cards. And there's not a, I mean, this is not like a 400 card deck. I mean, this is like a 30 card deck, you know? So you're going to be going through the same encounters. You're going to see the same encounter cards over and over, but those don't really matter. That's the point. This is not a storytelling thing. The encounter cards are just sort of setting up the battles that you're going to do. And the battles vary, but again, this is the battle map. This is where every single battle takes place across all the entire game. This is actually one of the expansion ones. This is the base game one. It doesn't matter. It makes no difference. So yeah, it's just a 4x4 grid. That's it. You know, there's not terrain. There's not any of that. So you can see a lot of things have been stripped down. A lot of things have been simplified compared to another sort of big RPG game. And so the real joy, the real things that have not been stripped down are the characters. And the base game, I think, comes with 4. We have access to 12, but we're going to stick with just, you know, the base 4. And characters are all about dice. This game is all about dice. That's why it's called Too Many Bones. Bones is a term for dice that's sometimes used. And so you can see here, Gilly, these are all his unique dice. So he has 9, 13, 16. I think every character has 16 unique dice, all with, you know, unique symbols. And this explains what all these symbols mean. And as you sort of level up, you're going to be adding these dice to your character sheet, which is this. In the real life board game, in the real version, this is like a neoprene mat. So it's like a mouse pad with holes in it that you put the dice in. And so you're adding dice to this mat as you go in order to improve your character and gain access to these different skills and upgrade your health and your attack value, you know, things like that. And so, yeah, every character has this sheet that lists all their dice, all their skill dice, and what they all do. And the backside lists their special rules, things that I'll get to as we go. But essentially, every character feels very different due to all these unique rules. It's very asymmetric. It kind of reminds me of like Vast. It kind of reminds me of when we learned Vast, which is a game where every person has completely different abilities, completely different rules, and they're basically sitting there just studying their own sheet and learning exactly what they can do, and they really have no idea what other people are doing, and that's interesting. This, however, is fully cooperative, so it's all good. Yeah, so we're gonna be getting into what all that means. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pick 2 characters. I'm gonna pick Boomer as one of them because Boomer is really cool. And then I think for the other one, we'll go with Picket. Oh, hold on. Do I have to change my color to Game Master? There we go. So Boomer, yeah, Picket. Picket, there we go. And then we'll pick Nom for our Tyrant, and then this button. Players not cleared or selected. Oh, I didn't. Yeah. Select. Done. And that'll set up the little decks for us. Blah, blah, blah. Sets up our encounter. They call them baddies in this game. Again, it's very lighthearted. Those are our enemies. And we are good to go. Alright, so let's see here. I know for a fact Boomer starts with these 4. So we can just slot those in. You're not gonna, thank you. Alright, and that doesn't matter, but alright. Okay, so characters. Yeah, I'm gonna have to explain them each individually, because they're pretty different. Picket is basically your generic tank. He's all about defense. He can amass a lot of defense in order to avoid taking damage. He also can get skills to like protect his allies. And he can just build up incredible amounts of armor or defense, that he can then use to shield bash and unload all of it in one big smash. So that's interesting. Boomer, on the other hand, is a ranged character that is all about explosives. So she can do just normal ranged attacks if she wants, but she also spends time scavenging for components that she can use to make bombs, which she then throws, which can do just insane, like, explosive damage to whole big groups. So that's fun. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, starting out, each... I don't think you... Let me just double check. Let me just double check something here. I don't think that's... I don't think you get... No. Okay, we're fine. All right, so let's just draw an encounter card. The first one is always going to be the same, at least in the base game. There's some text here, but it doesn't really matter. Basically, each of these encounter cards will have like a choice on it, or multiple choices, and usually they'll lead into actual battles. Sometimes they won't. And what you're looking for is mainly this symbol here, this little one symbol with a gear around it. In order to fight the big bad boss here, Nam, we need at least 6 of those symbols accumulated. So, you know, if we keep going, we'll get there. And then we can fight him whenever we choose. But we can't go past 8 days, so we can't go past like 8 cards, essentially. I think we just lose at that point. So, alright, our first choice always is gaining 2 training points or gaining 1 training point and then getting a loot card. I think generally you want to just take the training points. Those are good. So, training points are what let you add dice or modify dice on your character sheet. So, obviously, that lets you add these skills, your unique 16 skills. The ones that have a star icon there, and on the sheet, the ones that have a star icon, you can get those at any time. You don't need, there's no prerequisites, is what I mean. So you can grab any of the stars. The other ones that don't have stars, you have to sort of have the prerequisite. So, like, for Intercept here, you have to have Red Shirt. For Tenacity, you have to have Confidence. For Renown, you have to have Tenacity, which means you have to have Confidence. No Confidence, no Tenacity. So that's that. That's how that works. Then there's the stat dice, which are just these. They're just basic dice, numbered 1 through 6. Everyone has these. And by default, you don't get those dice. So your stats are just these listed numbers. Health, obviously, that's how much health you have. Attack, that's how many dice, attack dice you can roll each turn. Same thing for defense. It's how many you can roll each turn, but it's also how many you can have, like, allocated. We'll get to what exactly I mean later. And then dexterity is just a general catch-all of how many dice you can roll per turn, whether it's attack, defense, or skills. So if you don't have enough dexterity, even though you have dice you might want to roll, you have a bunch of skills. If you don't have enough dexterity, you can't roll them on your turn. You have to pick and choose. Now, granted, your dexterity is never going to get probably that high for most characters, but you know, you want 3 or 4 usually. Okay, so, right, training points, yeah, they let you get skills, but they also let you add the dice here to these stats, or they let you bump up the numbers. So, basically, I could spend 1 training point right now to add this right here, and then my health would get become 6 instead of 5. Or I could add it to dexterity, which would let me roll 3 dice per turn instead of 2. Health, dexterity, and skills, they always just let you do that, no problem. And if I had it, I could spend another training point and bump this up to 2 right away if I wanted. I could just do that very easily. And same thing with health. Attack and defense are a little different, though. You have to pass a training test in order to actually apply it. So for attack, I would add up however many attack dice I have available to me, which right now is just 1, and I would roll the 1, and there you go. Since I rolled the bones, basically I rolled a 1, I failed the test. So I can't spend that point to upgrade attack. If I had rolled anything else, I would have been able to just throw it in there, but I rolled that. So I cannot spend that point on attack. I don't lose it. I can spend it elsewhere. And I could spend my other points to try and upgrade attack, but the first point cannot go there. And defense is the same thing with defense dice. So, I don't know why exactly they went with that system, but that's the way it is. Okay, so then every sheet has some beginner recommendations for what to put some points into. So this says bump up your dex to 3 first and foremost, which I agree is probably the best way to go. Then get a point in each of your 4 stats: health, attack, defense, and then dex again. And then, you know, you may need more health depending on how many other party members there are. But defense is really important to pick it, obviously, so that's good. Otherwise, you can also grab a skill in the captain profession, they recommend, which is his main thing, so that's probably a good idea. So the only one we can start with for captain is stand ground. So you can see every dice is numbered corresponding to the number on the skill. So stand ground is number 1. We just slot that in and we are good to go. So now during an encounter, he can roll the stand ground, and depending on what symbol he rolls, what side he rolls, he's going to get a different benefit, and we'll get to that. So for now, that is fine. Okay. Then Boomer also gets 2, so let's talk about Boomer. You'll notice she started with these 4 green ones in her pool. Those are her scavenger dice. So she can roll those during an encounter in order to find certain components. There's element, there's casing, there's fuse. She needs 1 of each in order to increase her boom counter. And she needs to spend from her boom counter in order to use her grenades. All right. So you can see, like, some of these, you know, the component stuff, you could roll and get 3 on each of them. In which case, you could spend all that. You have 3 of each. You could bump your boom counter to 3 right away. And the boom counter carries over between encounters. So that's pretty nice to have a high boom counter going into a battle. You don't have to worry about it. Right. So the rest, she's got grenades. So she's got different kinds of grenades. Frag and big boom just do, you know, big explosions. Napalm is like a damage over time effect. Stunner obviously stuns an enemy. Then she has utility grenades. So smoke screen basically causes any attack against her to miss. Sonic cleanse removes all negative effect dice from the party. Flashbang disables an enemy, which means that the enemy's skills don't work anymore, which is nice. Then she's got these keen eye things, which basically let her... They let her, like, buff her HP a bit, get some temporary HP, maybe draw a loot card, which is nice. Or these let her gain extra components, which is good. Bigger Boom obviously makes more damage to one of her grenades. And then the very nice Search for 325 skill that lets her find a holy hand grenade, which is some pretty solid damage. It's the best grenade she's got. This one just increases her boom counter by 1. And then here, the 325 element. Element 325. You have to have this die, and you have to roll a 6, essentially, when you roll it, in order to get the 325. But if you have it, whenever you finally use a holy hand grenade, its damage is basically doubled. So, yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, and then consumables. Every character has access to some unique consumable dice. These you cannot train. You can't add these normally. You have to basically get loot cards or get them some other way. And they're one-time use. So, but they're good. I mean, obviously, the holy hand grenade. All right, so for Boomer, we're going to... It recommends adding health, but since I have Pickett there defending everything, and she's a ranged character, I'm going to instead add attack. I guess I have to roll, don't I? Hopefully that doesn't go terribly. No, all right, we're fine. So bump up her attack, and we'll add her frag dice. So she can actually start throwing some grenades. All right. So that's it. We spent our 2 training points for each character, so that is the encounter. We got a progress point, so we are a bit closer. All right, and so the turn order is listed here. You draw an encounter. If it was a success, you get the rewards. If it wasn't, you don't get the rewards. Then you go to the recovery thing where you can choose to, like, recover all your HP if you're missing any, or if you don't need to, you can discard a loot to try and get different loot, or you can scout out the, basically the enemy stack, so you can see what enemies are coming up. I'm not going to waste time doing that because we're going to be pressed for time as it is, I'm sure. So otherwise, you just tick over the day counter. So now we're at day 2, and we're going to draw the second encounter, which again is always the same. This is going to be a battle. Basically, we can either do the battle just as is normal, in which case we'd get an extra training point, or we can have the guards help us out, in which case, at the start of every round, all the enemies will take 1 damage guaranteed. But we'd miss out on a training point. So let's just do it normally. So, setting up enemy encounters. How you do this is you're going to... So, enemies are... Their strength is evaluated on this point system. So there's 1-point enemies, 5-point enemies, and 20-point enemies. And whenever you start an encounter, sometimes there's special rules, but the normal way is you multiply the day you're on by however many players there are, or however many characters there are. So we're on day 2, we have 2 characters. I'll let you figure this one out. Take your guess. 2 times 2, and we're at 4 points. So when you have your total... you then fill in the slots. You subtract from that and fill in with the baddie points. So in our case, we're going to take 4 of these 1-pointers, and that equals, 4 points. If it was at 5, if we were at 5 points for whatever reason, we would instead take 1 5-point enemy, not 5 1-point enemies. So it always starts at the top, and you try and you make change, essentially, you know? Whatever the biggest denomination is first, and you break it down. And this is an interesting system because some of the characters and some of the things, you have ways you can actually influence that number. I was playing a little thing with the I don't want to mess around too much. Gilly. Gilly has this camo consumable item that he can get, and that lets him actually raise or lower this this number, this baddie point number, by a certain amount. So if I didn't want to fight, well, in that case, you could just lower it to like 2 and we could only fight 2 enemies, which would be great. But, you know, fighting, like they said, if it's at 18, you would fight 3 5-point enemies and 3 1-point enemies. If it instead was at 20, just 2 points higher, you would instead fight 1 20-point enemy. Which is a big difference. I mean, that's a very different encounter. So it's an interesting system. But all right. So we're just doing 4 1-pointers. There can only ever be 4 enemies on the board at one time. So if we had more than 4, we would just line up the first 4, and then the rest would come in whenever any of them died. All right. So, luckily this mod handles all this sort of stuff, but this is how it works. Your health is basically a series of these red chips that go underneath your token. Depending on when they come in, they get shuffled into, or they get moved into one of these lanes. So, first enemy comes in this first lane, then the second lane, then the third lane, and finally the fourth lane. Depending on whether they're a melee character or ranged, they go in this first row or the back row, and that's it. That's always how it works. And then the extra token just shows what lane they started in, because that determines their initiative dice. It's all dice all the way down. So, just a quick run through here. Obviously, this red number here, that's their max health. As you can see, that's how many chips they got there. The green thing here, that's their starting initiative. This symbol here tells you that they're a melee character. This symbol right here tells you what family of enemies they're in. So these are trolls, this is the scales, this is orcs. And then up here, this is how many attack dice they roll each turn. This is how many defense dice they have access to. And you can see most of them don't even get defense dice at this point. Number 1, the blue one, he is starting at 3. Number 2, the purple one, is coming in at 6. Number 3, the yellow, is coming in at 2. And finally, number 4 is coming in at 4. Now, this isn't immutable. Some effects can change the values of these dice, but by and large, this is the set initiative order. Now, then there's our characters. Actually, let me... I don't remember if we place before or after initiative. The rulebook is fairly light. I mean, most of the complexity of the game comes from each unique character. And even then, it's not that crazy complex compared to the other stuff that we've been looking at. Okay. Okay, so party gets to choose if how they want to break the tie. So these are their initiative dice for each character. There are different values on it. You can see. Yeah. You can see there's different values. I don't think any character I've come across has a 1. But all right, so Pickett got a 5, so he'll be slotted in right there. She got a 3, so she can go before or after. I guess we'll go before. And this is the order. It does not get re-rolled or anything like that. That is just the order until combat is over. Now, obviously, if new enemies came in, they would come in with new... Actually, they don't... I don't think they come in with their initiative number. No. They either come in at the top if they're like a tyrant or a 20-point, or they come at the back end if they're a 1 or a 5-point. So that's it. So yeah, it's pretty set in stone, I would say. Okay, then we have to place our characters. So we each have our little token here, and we're gonna grab some HP. Pickett has 5, so that's his 5. Okay, and he can go in any of these melee spots that he wants. It doesn't really matter. Generally we want to prioritize ranged, but I think he's gonna get blocked in, so it doesn't matter. Boomer comes in with 3. There you go. And she'll just sort of cower behind him in this corner. Okay. And then we start. So, melee characters can move... Well, any character can move 2 spaces. And diagonals do not count for movement or attacks most of the time. So melee characters move 2, and then they attack whoever is closest. Ranged characters attack from they can attack anything. They can attack, you know, there's no line of sight or any of that. They can just attack any unit. I don't think ranged enemies ever move unless they're like forced to. I, as a ranged player, can move if I choose to. 2 spaces, but I also can attack any unit, so it's nice. All right. Let us begin then. So first up would be this guy right here, yellow. He is going to move to next to Pickett. Yeah, and then he has no defense. He has 1 attack die, so he's going to take 1 attack die, and he's rolling this against Pickett. And I actually forgot a rule about Pickett. All right, so he rolled a bone, a 1. So some enemies, they have this bone symbol on their card, their token. So if a bone ever comes up during their turn, they do whatever this is. Sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's negative. For him, this is a big negative. He just takes 1 guaranteed damage. Irreducible damage. Right, so I forgot about Pickett. His innate ability is Shield Wall. At the start of the battle, Pickett may roll all of his defense dice and place the roll defense in his active slots. So he gets to roll his 2 defense dice at the start. So normally, like I said, if he didn't have that and that guy hit him, he would have no recourse because he didn't get to go before him. So with Shield Wall, we can just start with 1 defense, and that doesn't get to go there. All right, so again, to explain, your total number of available defense dice available to Pickett is 2. So that's why he rolled 2. But now, one of those dice actually provided a defense value, and I put that in the active slot here. That means it's active defense, so it can absorb damage. If it wasn't in the active slot, it doesn't exist. So now, next turn, if this doesn't get eaten up, if this doesn't take up damage, I only have one defense die available to me because my other die is sitting here in the active slot. So it's not like every turn you get to roll 2 defense and just keep adding and accumulating defense. You have essentially a max that you can have on you at any one time. So this came up a bone symbol. So next turn I could roll this if this doesn't get eaten up. But if this does get used, I can just roll 2 next time. You can also always, not always, but most of the time, whenever you roll a symbol, whenever you roll a die, you can choose not to, like, utilize it. So I could have, with this 1, I could have chosen to not put it in my active slot and instead just hold on to it. There are reasons for this occasionally. If for whatever reason I wanted to hold off and maybe hope that I rolled a 2 instead of a 1. So once it's in here, this doesn't get rolled again until it's absorbed. Obviously, I don't think I would do that, but you could. All right. Anyways, that was yellow. Pretty shitty turn for him, obviously. Next up is going to be Boomer. Alrighty. So Boomer has 3 to... player characters can move more than 2 spaces or less than 2 spaces. It chews up dexterity. So if you want to spend dexterity on movement, you can do that. But I won't. Alright, so she has 3 dexterity. She can roll 3 dice. I don't have a boom counter. I can roll 2 attack dice if I want. I could roll 1 attack dice if I want. I could roll 2 defense and 1 attack, 2 attack, 1 defense, or I can roll some of these elements. So I could roll 2 attack, 2 attack, 1 casing die and start building up components and blah blah blah. Or I could just roll all 3 components to just try and hope to get a grenade next turn. Which isn't the worst idea I've ever come up with. Now, let me just double check something here. I need to double check target prioritization. Melee baddies always pursue closest opposing. Ranged baddies only target their target priority, which is either the lowest HP or the highest HP. So these guys are both going to be targeting Boomer because she has the lowest HP. So in that case, I think prioritizing defense is going to be important. So we're going to definitely be rolling 2 defense. And I think I'm going to shoot this kobold. He's kind of dangerous. He has compound, which means he rolls as many attack dice as the round number we're on. So he just gets more and more powerful. He only has 2 health, but he does have hardy, which means no matter what, he only takes 1 damage. So I'll roll 1 attack against the kobold. You do have to declare what target you're using for any sort of effects. You pick 1 target before even rolling. All right. So we got 1, which is good. That's all I would do anyways. So that's that. 1 damage to him. I did get 1 defense, which I'll take. And then I got this. Now, I couldn't do this for the shield wall, but I can do this now. Pretty much for attack dice, defense, for pretty much anything, almost anything. If you roll a bone symbol, you can put it into your backup plan row. And so this is a way to utilize your failures, essentially. This backup plan thing gets reset every encounter, so it's only for this encounter. And you can do the backup plan stuff at any point on your turn. basically spending that many dice that's in there in order to do increasingly more powerful effects. So if I just spend one backup dice like that right now, I can thump a target for 1 damage. If I instead wait until I had 4 in the row, and I wait around and continue to fail, I could instead thwack a target for 3 damage. Other stuff lets me reroll scavenger dice. I can move a unit to an adjacent position. I can make Boomer untargetable for 1 turn. And if you ever get 6 backup dice in there and spend it all in one go, you get to upgrade your innate ability. And that's permanent. So, that's pretty good. So that's an interesting little system. I think I am going to spend this, though, in order to do 1 damage, because that will kill this kobold. And that seems, that seems pretty valuable to me. I think I should have put that whole stack in there. Yeah, so that was good. That was a nice kill. And I got 1 defense out of it, which should help. So moving on. Moving on to blue, number 1 here. He's going to move. Damn it. Hold on. There you go. He's going to move there. He gets 1 attack dice and 1 defense dice. Alright, so his defense is null and void, and he's going to take 1 damage for being careless, which is good. But he did roll 1 attack, so we bump over here. Picket has 1 defense, so we just remove that. And that's it. It's been absorbed. And that's that turn. So if he had rolled defense, it would just sit like on top of his thing and absorb that amount of damage. And until it was absorbed, so like next turn, like I said, he would not roll 1 more defense. It wouldn't keep accumulating. It would just sit. This right here is his 1 defense die, and it's in use. Well, no, it's not, but so next turn he can roll it because it didn't do anything. All right, this guy, the scout. He's got 1 attack die. He has raiding, which basically only matters if there's other orcs on the board, which there isn't. He's going to shoot the lowest health, which is Boomer, with 1 die. Here we go. It's a big miss. Now, he doesn't have a fail effect, so it's just nothing happens. All right, and then we're back to Picket. Not back to Picket, it's Picket's first turn. Now Picket could move to intercept this guy. That does leave Boomer exposed to this thing, because he will prioritize Boomer with the lower HP. But I think overall I can live with that. I want to kill this range dude. Alright, so Picket's gonna move. Oh yeah, okay. So moving would cost 2 dexterity. Leaving him only 1 die in order to do something, which is either defense or attack. Or he could roll his stand ground die, which would either give him a reusable bone, a reusable backup plan, basically. So it would go into his backup plan slot, but then once used, normally, if you put a skill there and you use it up for the backup plan, it becomes exhausted and you don't have access to it for the rest of the encounter. With that symbol, though, it would go back into his sheet. Or he could get one of these other things, which would give him a constant regen. So for the rest of the entire adventure, he would heal 1 HP at the start of his turns. He doesn't ever get it back Actually, I think he might get it back. I'm not sure. I think normally if you fail an encounter, your locked dice get removed. I don't know if that overrides it by saying lasts for entire adventure or not. I'd probably have to look that up. Okay, so you can just take him out of the slot at any point and roll him if you want. Oh, and if he ever is KO'd. If he's ever KO'd, they're exhausted as well. Okay. Which would happen if you fail an encounter. Alright, let's just roll a defense, I guess. No. Let's be aggressive. I'll roll an attack against this orc. Alright, 1. That's alright. Hopefully Boomer can finish that off. The purple guy is no longer in play, so that's done. We're back to yellow, who, like I said, is going to prioritize hitting Boomer. So this is 1 attack die against Boomer. It's 1 damage. So that's the 1 defense. That's the end of the turn. Then we have the Boomer. Probably just go 2 attack dice on the orc and 1 defense. I mean, I want a grenade as much as anybody, but I don't really have the dexterity necessary to make that happen. Alright, we rolled double 2s, so a 6 and a 6. That was pretty good. We also got a defense. This orc is fucking gone. Clean up. Clean up on aisle 6. Alright. So that was good. That was a good turn. Can't complain about that. Then blue is gonna go. It's of course gonna attack Picket. 1 attack, 1 defense. Alright, he got 1 attack and 1 defense. So that's gonna go there. And we're applying 1 attack to Picket. He has no defense, so he is going to lose a health. Now, unless you're playing with like the healer character or you get a hold of his Gobbly Jerky, he doesn't really have a way of healing outside of the recovery phase, choosing the option to heal your full HP, which is what we would do anyways, but something to keep in mind. Also, I've seen encounters happen where it's like, basically, if you do something poorly or you pick up, you fuck up, you might skip over the recovery phase entirely and you don't even get the chance to heal from an encounter. So that's a little rough. But alright, Picket's turn. Here we go. He doesn't have to move. Let's go ahead and roll stand ground. I'll roll a defense and I'll roll an attack. Let's get 1 of each in there. Alright, so we got 1 attack. We got a bone for our defense. Now, putting your defense in the backup plan does not consume up your defense limit. So even though it's there, next turn he could still roll another 2 defense. We got 1 attack. I didn't really pick a target. I think I would go after this guy, of course, because it's threatening Boomer. And we must protect the Boomer. Oh yeah, I don't think he actually loses that. I forgot. He doesn't have hardy, he has thick skin. Thick skin absorbs the first damage against him automatically. Yeah, ignore the first damage he would take each turn. So that actually doesn't do anything. He does, however, get this, the reusable a reusable backup plan. So he has 2 now. You'll notice he doesn't have an effect for 1, but 2 is Shield Bash, where he can remove all dice, including any that he just rolled, active slots and locked slots, and do that amount of damage to the target. So right now it's useless, but we're getting there. I think so. Next turn, I think we'll roll double defense. Okay, that was his turn. So back to number 2, who's targeting Boomer with 1 attack dice. That is 1. I think she had. Yeah, she has 1. So that's all good. Oh, I forgot. I always forget. This is the one thing I always forget. The round counter. The rounds go up. There's a limit, essentially. This would be the 3rd. Yeah, this is now the 3rd round. So you can go through 5 rounds normally. But every round after the 5th one, at the start of it, every unit on the board takes 1 damage. Irreducible. There's no way to avoid it. So there's essentially just a limit. You can't drag fights out forever. Could work to your benefit, could work to your detriment. That's just the way it is. So we're on round 3. All right, Boomer. I'm rolling 2 attack dice again on this yellow dude, and ideally I would kill him, but I would, yeah, I need to roll a 6 in order to kill him. So let's add a defense dice in there. I do kill him. Good. I get the defense dice, but I kill him. We'll take that. All right. That's good. Number 3 is going to go and attack Pickett. He can't use that defense dice. It's already in use. So it's 1 attack, which does 1 more damage to Pickett. But that's his turn. So now Pickett's going to go, and we're going to roll 2 defense, of course. And let's go ahead and roll an attack as well. All right. So we got 1 there. I could shield bash for 1 damage. I do 1 damage, which removes that. I got do-over. I can immediately reroll any number of rolled dice once. Okay. And it's not like once you hit 4, you have to do 4 or anything like that. If I hit 4, I can spend 2 of them to shield bash, and then I could spend 2 of them to shield bash again, like right away, or no, next turn. I think you can only do it once per turn. But still, you're just consuming them. You're not, it's not like spending all of them for any effect. All right, that's that. Round 4, Boomer's gonna go. Boomer's gonna make it happen. Let's go with 2 attack dice. And now I can start to gather some components. Because as long as you win the encounter, that stuff carries over. Alright. She did nice 2 damage, and she found herself an element. So we are going to lock that here. So that means once it's locked, I can't just keep rolling it. I can't just keep rolling it to try and get 3. It's locked in. Now I could choose to ignore this. Think. There's exceptions usually, but no, okay. I could choose to ignore it. In which case it would just go back here and I could re-roll it again. But and I could also, I think, choose to exhaust this and basically reset it if I wanted to go into the battle next time and try and hope for a higher result. But as it stands, we can just lock it. So as long as we win the encounter, that'll stick around until, you know, I spend it in some way. Okay, 2 damage to this big baddie. He's got no defensive measures, so he just takes 2 damage. Then we tick over to his turn. He's gonna roll these 2 to attack Picket. He got careless, so he dies, of course, but he does do 1 damage, which is absorbed, and that's the end of the encounter. Simple as that. So, since we did it without the guard's help, we get an extra training point. In the lower right, you see we get 1 automatically. We also get another progress point, so we're at 2. 2 training points, and we each get a loot card. So here's all our loot cards. Boomer gets Last Battle Stew. Place 7 HP on this card at the start of each new day. Remove 1 HP for spoilage. Outside of battle, any gear lock may remove any number of HP from Stew to heal for that amount. Interesting. Okay. And Picket gets utility parts. On your turn, unexhaust any 1 die. May include fellow gearlock dice. Okay, so by default right now, I don't think he really would exhaust anything outside of some special circumstances. No, but it's there. Now they could trade dice, or they could trade cards. I could just give this to Picket. All right, give this to Boomer, which I suppose is she probably is gonna that way she can throw a grenade, which would be exhausted normally. She could just get it back and throw another grenade. All right, 2 training points then. Yeah, 2 training points. Body search isn't bad, because that could give her potential loot or potential free components. She can only use it after at least 1 baddie is defeated. But I think that's probably worth grabbing, so we're gonna grab number 13. And then I think let's bump up her dexterity. I like that. Over on Picket's side, yeah, I mean, he could do with more HP. He's not ever gonna be monstrous, but I don't know. I feel like the hero tree might be pretty useful. The hero tree just adds a lot of defense. Now here, these dice, you can see they add big amounts of defense, you know. There's a lot of defense to be had in these purple dice. But if you shield bash using these purple dice, they are exhausted, which means they're set aside for the entire battle, unless you have something like that. Utility part. But I mean, utility part, it's kind of useful to both of them. But I'm gonna go with, I'm gonna grab one of these. I'm gonna grab confidence. We're gonna have confidence. And yeah, I'll just bump up his HP by 1, I guess. It's useful. Whoops. Not you, Boomer. The backup plan is always reset after a battle. This gets reset. And that's that. They go to the recovery phase then. where we traded loot. I think Pickett would restore his health. So he's going up to 6. And Boomer didn't take any damage. So she could instead try and get some better loot. Basically, you discard your one of your loot cards. You roll 6 dice. If you roll any bones, every bone you roll, you reveal another loot card, and you get to keep one of those. So it's basically, hopefully, getting a choice of which to pick. But I think utility parts is good. Alternatively, then, she can scout the area. So I guess we'll do that just to show you. You roll a d6. Depending on how well you roll, you can reveal different types of enemies. So on a 6, I can reveal 1 of any point and just see what it is. I guess let's do a 5. Okay, so there, 5. So whenever we encounter a 5-point enemy, this will be it. This will be one of them at least. Now I can choose to keep this on top or shuffle it to the bottom if I don't like it. As it stands, I think this is a fine one, so I guess I'll keep it. Yeah, and then it ticks over to the new day. And you continue down the encounters until eventually you have enough points to take on Nam, and then you fight Nam. And we all lose because it's Nam. I guess. I don't know. I have not ever fought him. I haven't gotten that far. I didn't want to play all the way through. Okay, I'm gonna leave it off here because I have work to do. can't play all day. I'm gonna leave it off here. I am gonna do a second part though. I think just 1 second part. I do really love this game. I think this is fantastic. It's not the same type of game as I have been doing. Obviously, it's not like this big campaign I really need to chew through. I just started playing it and I was like, I gotta make a couple videos about this. So we'll do one more video. Hopefully I can actually get to Nam and maybe beat him. That would be cool. That might take a while. It shouldn't take that long. I know all the rules. So it should be doable as long as I don't suck too much. But all right, until next time then. My name is Mangg. Game watching has been Too Many Bones, and I'll see you fine folks in the next part.